Welcome to Conversations with Conscious.Enterprises, where we're exploring the evolution of consciousness through business. I'm Roxana Rafaja, and I hope this conversation gives you a glimpse into the mind of a successful venture capitalist and entrepreneur. Kimmy Scotti is so engaging and effervescent. I'm sure you'll easily see how she's become such an accomplished businesswoman. Aside from being a partner at 8VC, her venture capitalist firm, she was one of the first investors in Sakara Life. She is also a co-founder of a women's health and wellness company with her sister called Monthly Gift. Kimmy co-founded a direct-to-consumer healthcare company that has helped millions of Americans afford their prescription medications, and she even started a fashion jewelry line that was sold in Bloomingdale's while she was in college. In this conversation with Kimmy, you'll learn what this venture capitalist looks for in the startups and entrepreneurs that she invests in. We discuss Kimmy's customizable feminine care business, the healthcare industry, being a woman in the male-dominated finance world. We talk about using meditation to enhance gut instinct, and we also discuss Kimmy's super unique mindfulness practice. If you're not already following Conscious Enterprises on social media, now would be a great time to start, as we just announced our first annual Conscious Enterprises Month of Meditation, #CEMOME. We'll be announcing discounts, events, and a chance to win a bundle of mindfulness services and experiences. So please share this conversation. I really hope you enjoy it. And you can follow Conscious Enterprises on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And you can find all the useful links and resources from this conversation at www.conscious.enterprises. Well, thank you so much for having me over. This place is so stunning, and you look gorgeous. And
I'm like very black and white.
Yeah, I feel like this is like a good color.
I know. Also, I really like your shoe for my outfit.
Oh my God! Yes, you might have to swap.
Let's do a shoe swap. I actually did that one time. One time I was in a bathroom. You know, I was out with my friends, like partying, and I was in a bathroom, and a girl was like lost it over my shoes. She was just like, love them so much. I was like,
I
was like, what shoe size you wear? She was the same size, and so I just gave her my shoes.
Stop.
And
that's the nicest thing ever.
Yeah, but I was like, I just like delighted in this idea that like someone would be literally walking a mile in my shoes for like the rest of the time. I'm like, oh, this girl's gonna always remember that time some girl gave her like, and they were like nude patent Louboutins.
Oh my God.
I know, and and also to be fair, like it was a shoe that I didn't wear that often. I was just like, you know what, this girl loves these shoes, and she's like, I will never have a pair of shoes like that, you know. And I was just like, you will right now, because I don't even wear these ones that often is what I was thinking. But also, how fun would it be that this girl's like walking around in my shoes all the time?
And I'm a big believer in karma and like energy coming back to you, and I'm sure you got some great shoes or something after that.
I have so much good karma. I feel like the luckiest person in the whole world all the time.
Amazing, yeah.
It's really funny.
And congrats on your engagement.
Thank you.
Amazing. You got a lot of stuff going on right now.
A lot of stuff.
Awesome. Well, to introduce you a little bit to everyone, I know you're a partner at 8VC, which is a venture capitalist firm. You are an investor in Sakara Life, which is a wellness and plant-based food company.
Yeah.
You're a founder of Monthly Gift, which is a women's health and wellness company. You know, your resume goes on and on and on. You're clearly a serial entrepreneur, but I want to start with, you know, where did you grow up?
Yeah.
How did you grow up? And what kind of fostered this entrepreneurial spirit?
Yeah. So I grew up in Queens. I'm from New York. I have there's four of us. A sister who's my business partner, Monthly Gift.
Okay.
And then we have two brothers. We're all about the same age. We're between the sort of longest distance between any two kids is 2 years.
Oh,
so
wow.
we're
Okay. So you're very
right
close.
now we're 31, 32, 32, 33.
Okay.
No. We're 32, 33, 33, 34.
Okay.
In a week. We all shift. Yeah, so my sister and I's birthdays are in the beginning of May. My brother's are in the end of May, beginning of June.
Okay.
So I'm like, we just changed. I'm like, that was last month's ages. This month it all
May
shifted.
must be like a fun month for you guys.
It's really fun. We always do like birthday dinner together and stuff. It's really fun.
Cool.
but I always insist on having my own birthday party also, which they always think is really funny. My sister's like, why do you need to do this every year? And I'm like, I love my birthday. It's the best.
I'm the same way.
Yeah, I'm a totally celebrator. Yeah.
Don't feel bad about it. Just go with it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, growing up really close together, my parents both worked really hard when we were growing up, and so we did a lot of entertaining ourselves. And we, for me, that meant always doing a lot of projects. My mom would, will remark now, that my brothers and sister would like go outside to play, and then I would like come back in and like set up a craft or something for us. Like, always those little, I don't know if you ever play with those like beads you like iron into magnets and things like that. She's like, you were always like doing a craft and like setting up like a project to do. And so I think, I had that kind of bug of like making things really early. And so a lot of times when people describe me, they'll be like, oh, you're an entrepreneur, you're an investor. And the way that I really think of myself is as a maker. Okay. And so I think, and that means so many different things. And so I think sometimes I make, sometimes I make jewelry and clothes and make my own stuff. Sometimes I make, I cook, sometimes I make meatballs, and sometimes I make investments, and sometimes I make big mistakes. So, I just think maker is kind of how I like wrap it all up in one like neat little bow.
That's great. I love that.
But I started, I started my first company really young. I was only 15, and so I've sort of always had that entrepreneurial bug and spirit. I think. Yeah. If we were kind of like look back.
What was this 15-year-old company that you started?
I had a jewelry line.
Oh, how cool!
And it was called Mims, which is my nickname for my family for me.
Really cute.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Awesome. Yeah. Very cool. So, your businesses have spanned so many different industries. You've been in fashion, to tech, to healthcare, now wellness. Is there like a preference, or did these kind of represent different interests at different points in your life?
Yeah, both, I think, actually. So I would say the way that I kind of moved from one industry to the other looks really strange, because it's like, oh, fashion and then media, healthcare, wellness, all these different areas. But it was really, I was following sort of consumer data. Went from one company, I would see an interest in something and shift into another. I made the switch from being in jewelry to wanting to go into tech, because I really hated dealing with buyers. And I was like, oh, there's got to be a way to talk directly to customers and get that information about what they really want right from them, not just from this buyer who doesn't really know a lot about her customer. Okay. And so, I was sort of following a need around, and made the move into healthcare, following also data that we were seeing in one company that people were sort of looking for this, and moved into another. And so really sort of following that. But my interests also changed. My first company was something that I could really, at 15, really understand. I knew how to like buy materials. I was creative and wanted to make something from those materials, and I could easily do the math. I could add up, these are the costs of all these things. If you just double it and sell it, you make profit. Wow. That was really easy to understand as a 15-year-old. My needs, changed. I'm 33 now. The problems I want to solve are much, much larger. And so I just think, not that I don't want to play with jewelry all the time, because I really do. But the types of problems I look for and the types of entrepreneurs I want to work with are just solving bigger and bigger problems. And so now I really look for those people who are solving the biggest possible problem.
Interesting. What are some of those problems that you're...
It's a lot of healthcare for me right now. I really love the overlap between healthcare and consumer, and so I invest a lot in that space.
Interesting.
And actually, fun fact, you mentioned Sakara earlier. So Sakara is actually a personal investment I made way before we even started the fund.
Oh, really?
And they were my first investment ever, so I like to say Sakara really turned me into an investor.
Oh, no way.
And Danielle and Whitney are dear friends.
What a great brand to invest in.
Yeah, it was so great. They're really like such incredible entrepreneurs, and the girls have like, despite I think what people believe when they look at them, they're like so beautiful, and they're so great. They're so gritty. They really dig in and roll up their sleeves and they know every area of their business, and they really taught me about what I should be looking for in founders. They were my first ever investment.
So that kind of showed you, now that you're doing venture capitalists, those qualities that you look for in other leaders.
Exactly.
Interesting. That's very cool. Let's talk a little bit about monthly gift. I thought this was such an original idea. Can you explain first, I guess, what exactly it is and kind of what your intention and inspiration behind it was?
Yeah. So Monthly Gift is a subscription service feminine care company that I started with my sister, and it's tampons, pads, and liners delivered in one box, fully customizable, to your home for $10 a month. Okay. We deliver up to 36 products in a box, so it's a real value. Okay. It's a lot less expensive than if you were to try to buy 36 products in a supermarket or a drugstore. If you were to try to cobble together like small boxes of 18 to get all the different kinds of products you needed, it would come to like $22 or $23. And with Monthly Gift, you get everything you need, one box just for you, $10.
Is it the same products every month, or is it different?
You can change it based on your needs. So something that we found with working with women across the country and hearing about their needs and them using our app is that their needs change. Their product, sometimes they. Sometimes their flow changes. They go before a baby and after a baby. Your flow really changes. Your diet changes, and your period changes. All these things happen that adjust your cycle, and you might want different products for that. Or in the summer, you might swim a lot until you use tampons, and then when it moves back into fall, you're more comfortable in a pad. And so people really do change their subscription all the time. And then at the end of last year, we actually acquired a company called Dear Kate. Dear Kate's a period-proof underwear. And so actually it's an incredible technology, and the styles are so cute.
I think I've seen this. I've seen like an ad on like Instagram or something.
Yeah, for sure. And so it's a really great product. And so now I've actually become like a Dear Kate evangelist. I've been using the product. We like to say that these things are designed for your period but built for every day, so you can just really wear them all the time, and they're like cute enough and very comfortable that they don't look like period underwear or feel like anything different from your regular underwear.
So how does this work? I mean, this might be TMI for some people, but like do you wash it afterwards? Like how does it work?
So actually what's interesting about Dear Kate versus other period underwear that you might see is that there's no plastic film, so you can actually throw it in the washing machine. It doesn't have to be hand washed and hang dried. It lasts infinite washes. It's a nanotechnology, so it never fails.
Interesting.
The seams will bust before the technology washes out.
Wow.
And how it actually works is there's multi-layers of fabric, super breathable. You can blow a candle out through it, or so it's comfortable to sit in all day. Because it doesn't have any plastic. And actually how it works is it separates the protein in your blood from the fluid. It actually allows for the fluid to separate and evaporate out, and it just catches the protein basically, and that dries. And so when you take them off, you might see little flakes in the fabric, but they wash out in the washing machine, and the interior of them are black, so it's not like it's not gross or anything, and you feel dry all day.
And it doesn't leak or anything? You're not worried about wearing like white pants?
No, I have worn them with white jeans on a 10-hour flight. The first time I wore them, I was like, if we're going to buy this company, I was like, oh no, I know. I'm like, if we're going to buy this company, I gave my sister anxiety too, because I said to her, so if we're going to buy this company, I'm going to wear them with white jeans on a plane. I've got to be able to trust them this much. And she was like, you're out of your mind, but I think it'll work. And I was like, okay. So I literally got on the plane on my heaviest day with my white jeans on, and I was just like praying. I was like, okay. I was like, I'm close to God here. I can ask him to just make sure, or I could just ask him or her to make sure that I don't bleed through my white pants, so I can just go right to my meeting. And I did. I was like, this is great.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, so
fascinating. And then do you need like 7 different pairs, or like
you don't? You just throw them in the washing machine. If you want, they'd work again the next day. They're affordable enough that most women buy a lot of pairs, and a lot of women wear them every day, especially if your periods are regular. It's like around the time that you're supposed to get your period, just start wearing your Kates.
Oh, and then, that's a really good point, actually.
Yeah, and for young
instead
women,
of just waiting and like not knowing.
Yeah, and for young women, it's great too. Women girls, when they're just getting their first period, they're very irregular, and their period can be erratic, and so it's great to wear every single day because you're protected all the time.
Fascinating. And what was your personal inspiration or intention with Monthly Gift on starting this company?
So as you can see, I'm pretty OCD. Everything's
gorgeous.
Very organized.
It's like immaculate. Yeah.
this is what it looks like all the time. I'm like, this is the messiest it gets, actually.
Oh my God,
so
you should,
crazy.
I'd be terrified to have you in my apartment.
No, I'm like also non-judgmental. I'm just like, I have to have everything neat for my own brain. Like I just have to.
Yeah.
And so I found that everything in my life was organized, and I had an app for everything, and I was, had everything sort of down to a T. And I found that my period was still a surprise every month, and I really hated that. I found that I was still rushing to a drugstore to get a tampon, and I really hated that. And I thought, this isn't really a product. This should really operate like a service.
Right.
And that's why we started Monthly Gift. And I said to my sister, Lisa Marie, who's our CEO, I said, Lisa Marie, this is what's happening to me all the time, and I really want to start this tampon company. I kept calling it a tampon company, and she's like, what about pads? And I'm like, pads? I'm like, who uses pads?
Right.
And she's like, I use pads. And I've like never thought my sister was so much of an alien as in that moment. It had been a little while since we lived in the same house.
Right.
And she, her needs changed. She changed her mind from using tampons when we were like in high school and college. She really was like, no, I'm really comfortable in a pad. Mom uses them, so she, so she sort of saw that usage. And I was like, wow, okay, so we really have to do this. And we found that half of women primarily use pads.
I'm shocked by that.
Me too. And I thought it had to be, I was like, oh, it's an age bracket thing.
Yeah,
Young
I thought it'd be
women use
older.
tampons, older women use pads. It's actually not true. It breaks out completely across all age brackets. I know, it's really amazing. And so it was really because of her that we innovated into this customizable box where you could get tampons, pads, and liners.
Very cool. Yeah. Love that. I'm going to have to try it myself.
Yeah, you have to try it.
So I saw on your website that for every box purchased, you donate a day's worth of products to a girl in need. So companies don't need to do things like this, but it's always so amazing to like hear, these little bonus things that you do. You would obviously profit, if you didn't, if you didn't make these kind of donations. What was the thought process behind this plan?
Well, we really, for Lisa Marie and I, we were like, how do we leverage this business to be able to give back? And we kept saying this thing that our product was for all women, right? We were like, oh, it's price accessible and it's for all women. It's fully customizable, so it's for all women. And we really wanted to make that true.
Right.
And we were horrified by a lot of the information we were getting from other countries where there's like girls who miss a whole week of school and they start to fall behind in their education because they have their period, and all these different stories, which I'm sure you've heard in media. And we wanted to be able to help, not just sort of abroad, but also in our own backyard. We found that there's like young girls in Manhattan that don't have access to product. And so we were like, okay, how do we affect this? And so we give here, we give abroad, we really try to mix it up and be able to serve this community, across the world.
So when you started the company, that this was a part of your underlying business plan.
Yep.
It's amazing. I love that.
From the get-go.
Was it challenging at all at times to keep that as part of the plan?
Yeah, it's challenging to keep that as part of the plan and also keep your price low.
Right.
For us, we didn't want to be sort of a product for the coastal elite. We wanted to be a product that worked for all women everywhere that are checking the price between a few dollars here and there being a difference, and be able to serve that woman all over the place, not just like be a product for girls in New York and girls in San Francisco or LA or something. And we wanted to be able to be all over the place.
Very cool. And this partnership is through an organization called Days for Girls. Is that right?
Yep.
So how did you choose them? How did you select which organization to work with?
There's we looked at a number of charities, but what we appreciated about Days for Girls is that they had a local component as well. They weren't just giving abroad. They had a way for us to play in our own backyard.
Okay.
And so that's why we ended up working with them.
Great. I love it. Do you think all businesses should adopt a form of reciprocity in this way, and why do you think that's important?
So my overarching feeling about businesses is that they should all be solving a big problem. That big problem is charitable isn't always going to be the case.
Right.
I think that the best way you could really change something is to create a business that's makes profit out of it versus just otherwise we would just all create charities, right?
Right.
And so I think to align incentives properly, I think this is the best way. I don't think every business can fit within their model of buy one, give one. I don't think it's right for everybody, but I do think that all entrepreneurs are amazing problem solvers. I think we should be focused on big problems, and if we can find a way to fit in a charitable component to your business, amazing.
That's a great way to look at it. Yeah, I love that. switching gears here a little bit. So at 8VC, you're obviously constantly scouting for like the hottest startups. As a venture capitalist. What kind of companies or people are you most attracted to, and what kind of qualities do you seek in someone when you're making an investment?
Yeah, I think what the qualities of the company changes from stage to stage. You know, when we're looking at the earliest stage entrepreneurs, you're really looking at the founder and the founding team. And so in them, you know, you're looking for an ability to create unfair advantages for themselves, an ability to draw in team when it's not likely that you should be able to hire great talent because you don't possibly have the budget, but you can draw that talent in because you're about your problem in your business, and you're such a magnet that they want to come work with you. Cool. So we're really looking for that. Later stage, it's more metric driven. You're looking for certain signals in numbers to be able to decide it's going to be a good investment. You can underwrite that investment. But across the board, I'm always looking for those particular qualities, that kind of grit. You know, we talked about Whitney and Danielle. I look for that across all of our founders. Like, are they in an ivory tower where they're kind of like delegating everything? And delegation is important, but you want them to be close to their business and in the details and really know their business better than everybody else.
Not scared to get your hands dirty.
Exactly.
Sort of
really roll up your sleeves and dig in.
Yeah, I agree. So we talked about you being an investor in Sakara Life, which is the plant-based meal delivery service. It makes eating clean and easy, which is great, and has a cult following. So you're clearly into health and wellness.
Yeah.
Like, what's your diet like?
Yeah. My diet is, I think people would describe it as limited, but I don't find it limiting. I'm pretty plant-based, so pretty in line with the way Sakara sort of feeds you. I try to eat tons of greens and be really healthy. I find my brain operates best. So I'm vegetarian, I'm gluten-free, and I definitely have my little guilty pleasures. Ice cream is a big one for me. I'm like, I had Morgenstern's last night, which is so good.
You had which one?
Morgenstern's ice cream.
Morgenstern's?
It's on the Lower East Side. It's so good.
Oh my god.
So we had Morgenstern's last night, but it's those are my treats. I probably am the best source of information on where to find gluten-free pasta and toast everywhere, because I'm gluten-free, but I'm Italian, and so I really love.
I could use a list from you.
Oh yeah, I'll give you one actually. And so I definitely like seeking my things, but I'm like pretty. It's funny. I'm pretty habit oriented also.
Okay.
And so I basically like my breakfast is the same nearly every single day.
Really?
I'm like scrambled egg with avocado and tomato on the side.
Yeah.
Both raw.
Okay.
And people are like, always laugh at me when they have breakfast with me, because they're like, you literally eat this every day. Even at brunch, I still want that.
You order it at brunch?
Yeah, I order it everywhere.
That's
I order everywhere. It's my first thing I want to eat every day.
Yeah.
And it's it's such a solid source of protein, and all these things, and I really just I love it, and I'm like, I don't know why we have to change it. It's perfect.
Yeah, it sounds like you're covering your bases there.
Exactly. Yeah. And so my fiance loves new restaurants and new things, and so he's like, should I just call the restaurant and find out if they have scrambled eggs with avocado and tomato before we go? I'm like, no, that's okay. But yes.
It's not a tough ask. I feel like they'll do that for you.
Some chefs will literally not do it. They're like,
really?
we are not short order cooks. Like,
oh my
we
God.
have a menu.
I'm shocked by that.
Yeah, we don't serve raw tomato in our restaurant. It's really funny how fussy, especially in New York, restaurants get. But I'm like, so my diet's like pretty pretty strict, but it helps me feel like I'm operating best, and it keeps me from like grain brain and all of that, which I found is really rings true for me. I'm like, I'm exhausted if I find that I ate gluten by accident.
Same.
It really kills my energy.
Yeah.
And so I try to keep it pretty clean. But I'm a coffee fiend and a matcha monster. I really love a matcha latte.
Yeah.
And so I'm like always seeking those things throughout the day.
Cool.
Yeah.
We're kind of similar. Do you do fish?
I do some seafood. So I brought seafood back a little while ago, like 2 years, 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I've been basically a vegetarian since I was like 9 or 10.
Oh wow.
Basically my whole life. Yeah.
What made you make that switch at 9 years old?
Didn't like the way meat made me feel. So it was, I'd eat something and then I'd be like, I don't know, like I don't love the way that this is like operating in my body.
You were very in tune, I guess.
Yeah, and so I just decided not to eat it. But try to tell your like Sicilian parents that you're not going to eat a meatball anymore. You're like, I'm not eating meat. They're like, you will eat whatever we put in front of you. Yeah, and so it was like a bit of a scandal.
That must have been hard.
Yeah. Especially I have poor parents. They have like 4 mouths to feed. They're kids anyway, and they're dealing with now they've got like one with like massive dietary restrictions. So I'm like, I'm not eating this anymore. No, thank you. So we made a deal. I could eat only the vegetables, but I was eating whatever vegetables were prepared. Like, no one was gonna like make me a specific meal. Later on, my dad like warmed up to it and started. I was eating fish at this point, and so he would like make me my own little salmon or something like that. He's like really so good to me.
At least you got your veggies out.
Yeah, I got my vegetables.
Yeah, you liked your veggies as a kid. That's hard enough. Do you work out? What's your do you yoga? What's that kind of regimen like?
Yeah, I'm like only in the last few years have I become like really focused on exercise also, and lately I'm really into Pilates. I just started Pilates a couple months ago, and I'm obsessed with it. It's
like with the reformer?
With the reformer.
Or like, that's good.
It's so amazing. And then I also do Bari on Leonard Street in Tribeca. Yeah. It's so fun. It's on a trampoline. I'm really addicted to that.
Oh, I've done that class. It's amazing.
Oh, it's so great.
Hard.
It's so hard. I'm going tomorrow morning. I went this morning, going tomorrow morning.
Awesome.
I love it. I'm on a little kick right now. I feel like it's like bragging rights. I did 9 workouts in 8 days.
Wow.
And I feel like, wow, I'm like so
Seriously,
happy right
congrats.
now. Yeah, it's so fun. And so anyway, just like really focus. It's we're pre-summer,
right?
Bikini body ready.
Oh yeah, you'll be there, or you get an extra scoop of ice cream.
Yeah, exactly. But I had a Morgenstern's. Yeah,
yeah. So I've been excited because I know you're so into healthcare to talk to you a little bit about that. Because I recently interviewed Dr. Robin Berzin, who's the founder of. She's the best. Yeah. She's amazing. She's the founder of Parsley Health. Yeah. I also did an interview recently with Jeff Bernhardt, who's the former president of Aetna, which is one of the largest health insurance companies. Yeah. And it seems just kind of like anyone in the industry or outside of it is under the same consensus that our healthcare system just doesn't really work. And the standard model is just broken. Mm-hmm. So what are your thoughts on do you think businesses and corporations need to do their part in empowering their employees towards a healthy well-being and healthy mind, healthy body? Do you think it's their responsibility for as business leaders to provide incentives for their employees' well-being? What do you think about that?
So it's a tough question because I think that the only real way to be healthy and get healthy is for you to really want it. And I think no real level of incentivizing you being healthy and caring about your own well-being, will really motivate you as much as if you really want it.
Right.
And so we see these programs all the time where they're like, oh, we'll pay for this if you do these things. There's like some really fun programs like that, which I think is great. It's aiming in the right direction, but most people who are at least like work in a corporate kind of environment have great healthcare that's provided for them or offered to them, and they pay some part of that. And I think just practicing prophylactic medicine I think is really important. Making sure you go to the doctor and get those checkups and stuff. You hear horror stories all the time about people finding things late that they really should have found early because they didn't just go get a skin check every year or just go to just go get their checkup every year or something. And I try to really be methodical about that. I do think our healthcare system is broken right now, and there's a lot of people left behind. I think that's really the problem. But the tip of the spear in fixing healthcare, I really do think, is fixing prescriptions. Prescription medications are they're so large as a percentage of what we spend and where profit lies in care. And one of our amazing investments, Blink Health, is really focused on changing the way we pay for prescriptions, and so I'd encourage anybody to look at that. Okay. But I think also there's a lot of new technology companies focused on how to change our healthcare system. We have a number of them. We're super excited about it, but I don't think there's like one company I can point to and say like oh, this is the way healthcare should look, or this is the way companies should incentivize their employees. I think this is going to be a big collective effort. It's a big, big problem.
Are you seeing any sort of like focus in these sort of tech companies that you're meeting with or exploring? Is there like a focus, like an underlying kind of common denominator that they're all going towards?
Yeah, I will tell you the where I see a lot of tech entrepreneurs focused is on an area that I'd call convenience, and I think focusing on convenience is focusing on the wrong problem. We really should be focusing on the cost of care, not bringing care home and making it more expensive. And so I really look for those people who are focused on cost versus convenience.
That's interesting. Great. In your experience working with these startups and beginning your own as well, what are some of the biggest trends that you're seeing in general, just like in culture, work culture, work-life balance, wellness, social impact, things like that?
Yeah, I do. It's interesting. All entrepreneurs are like, everyone's different, obviously, and so, but I do see a trend in focusing on their own health and wellness, like body hacking and things like that, which I think is nice. I think entrepreneurs, because they're all problem solvers, also focus on themselves a bit, and I'm really happy to see them taking care of themselves in that way. Honestly, sometimes it's to a level that's like probably unhealthy, actually, but trying to optimize beyond reason. But I do think it's really nice when I was earlier on in my career in building companies, I don't think I focused on my wellness as much. And I didn't sleep at all, and I didn't eat enough, and I was like falling asleep at my desk all the time, instead of in my own home in my bed, and on my laptop or my phone until I finally fell asleep. And I find with a lot of the entrepreneurs we work with now, sure, they are definitely pedal to the metal, but I think I'm seeing a trend in that they practice self-care in a way that I didn't see earlier in my career.
Okay, cool.
So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, that is exciting. Yeah. That's great. I love that everyone's riding that wave to wellness. What have been some of your biggest challenges that you've encountered while building your own businesses?
Oh my God, every challenge. Trying to tell male investors about tampons was its whole own thing.
Oh my God, I cannot even imagine.
Yeah, they were like, la, 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 we don't want to hear this anymore. Stop saying tampon to us. It was so funny. And so my sister and I definitely experienced that. I've experienced challenges, across my career around being a woman, has been challenging in a lot of times in my career.
Because you're in a very male-dominated
world. Yeah. I'm so lucky that today I have partners who are male but who super respect me and lift me up in a way that's unique to this time in my life. I didn't have that always. But I really, I really am, careful now about who I work with and, how they, treat me, being really positive and not discriminatory. I think I've a lot of the challenges on my career have been around my own expectations of myself. I'm like super ambitious and focused, and sometimes that can be like being your own boss can be exhausting if your boss is you. If your boss was me, and so you have to really like make sure that you are practicing self-care and all of that. My travel schedule is insane. I'm like basically travel 6,000 miles a week.
Yeah, you're bi-coastal,
right? Bi-coastal, and so I go to San Francisco for the beginning of every week. That can be really challenging. Yeah. And especially earlier in my career, I definitely being that kind of hyper-focused on a goal, made me unaware of how that was affecting my relationships around me. I didn't always make time for what was really important, because it seems like the thing you're working on is really important and that people will always be there and you'll always have time. And that sometimes destroyed relationships or made them really tense at times. And I think now I'm better at really, at making time for what is actually important and focusing on what's right in front of me at the time it's there, versus like if you and I were sitting at dinner and it was 5 years ago, I would have been on my cell phone, BlackBerry at the time, the entire time, like, oh, just hold on, just one more email, one more second, and like half paying attention to you.
Right.
And I like now I kind of put my phone away. I never pull it out at a dinner table unless I like sort of give fair warning that I'm like, oh, I'm waiting for one thing, I'm going to check my phone one time.
Right.
Or I'll excuse myself to a bathroom or something like that, but I don't sit with my phone out all the time now.
Right.
And I try to really focus on what I'm doing when I'm doing it. So if I'm like hanging out with my sister, try to focus on that. If I'm, spending time with my fiance, try to focus on that. When I'm on vacation, I try to be there, reachable always to my entrepreneurs and my team, but within reason though. I don't need to, be answering email at 4 a.m., at this stage.
Right. Mm-hmm. So you're practicing presence.
Exactly. Try to be very present.
It's really hard for entrepreneurs.
It's really hard in general. Yeah.
Really hard.
I think it's hard for people, you know? And so, but I'm like, I'm really enjoying my life and I really enjoy what I do. And so I want to be like focused on it while I'm doing it.
Right. Mm-hmm. Great. What do you think makes business leaders successful?
It's an interesting way to ask the question also, because I think that people who are successful are also like, they're like slightly never content. They're like focused on whatever that next thing is. And so I think always like searching for that thing that's like out of place or can be improved, I think makes people strive for that, like for excellence and not hopefully not perfection, because I think that's unachievable, but excellence in a way. I think having being able to actually execute on a vision. A lot of people have ideas. Bringing those things to fruition is very, very hard.
Yeah.
And so having the grit and the power to stay with it when things are really, really, really hard, because they are almost all the time, while you're building. And so I think having that power to kind of stick with it will make you successful in the end. But then also knowing what they don't know and finding experts around you to seek out that information. I think all of these things kind of make up, are sort of the makeup of a person that will be successful in their future.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Great points. And how do you measure success? Like
for myself?
For yourself. Do you consider yourself successful, and how do you value that?
Yeah, it's so interesting. So I was doing a talk with this amazing group of women, and I was in Minneapolis during Twin Cities Startup Week, and the person who was prompting me to do this talk said, tell us what it's like when you've made it. And I'm like, I will tell you what it's like when I stop walking into a room and someone asks me for a coffee because they think I'm my own assistant or something. And I would say I don't like feel like I've made it. Like that's not a thing for me.
Okay.
But I do feel like I'm really content in my life right now, and I've never been happier. I've never been more excited about the work that I get to do every day. And so I feel, really lucky to be able to, spend my time with these amazing entrepreneurs I get to work with every day, meet new ones every single day, and like basically hear about a new idea an hour. It's kind of like, being pitched all the time. And so I get to hear about new amazing ideas all day, every day, every hour basically. And so I really love that. I love to get to work with my team at ABC and at Monthly Gift. We have really amazing people. I get to work with my sister and see her all the time, which is, so nice. My sister's just a year younger, and we're obsessed with each other. Mainly I'm obsessed with her. She calls me Swim Fan because I'm so obsessed with her.
Is she older or younger?
She's a year younger.
Oh, okay.
And she's like, when we were building out the Monthly Gift office, I was like, we only need one desk. You and me will just sit at a desk together. And she's like, we need 2 desks and 2 chairs. She's like, I'm not going to sit in your lap all day. You're crazy. messy.
You're like, we'll just share a chair.
Yeah, we'll share a chair. It's going to be perfect. And she's like, you're out of your mind. And then somebody had like piled stuff up between our two desks at some point, and I like got to work and I was just like this the whole time. I was like looking over these things, like trying, like stretching it. She's like, do you want me to just move this pile of things? I'm like, yes. I'm like, why do we need these monitors and stuff in between us? I'm like, it's so silly. But I love to get to work with my sister every day.
That's really cool.
I have a fiance who I love and I'm obsessed with and who loves me. And I feel and is supportive of my career in a way that I've not necessarily experienced in the past, and so I just feel really just so happy. And I think that's like that's the other way I would answer the question: what makes people successful? Is like, are they happy in their everyday and what they're doing? It doesn't mean that you don't have to do things you don't like.
Right.
We all in our careers we have to do things we don't like all the time and things that are stressful or hard all the time. But that I'm not like ripping my hair out all day every day, or like panicked about my work in a way. I think that's really what makes me feel like just really content with my like current work and outlook, but still seeking always for like what is that next problem to solve. It's not like I'm not resting in that contentness. I'm just like, okay, like what's next, and that level of peace I think gives me like the appetite to go seek more risk.
Yeah. So it sounds like you are solving these great big problems, and yes, the day-to-day could be a struggle here or there, but it's really just these amazing relationships and these great people around you that you're valuing, right?
I get to work with the best, smartest people all day, and I leave meetings and I'm just like, wow, like these people are so brilliant. Like I have no right to my teams, no right to these entrepreneurs I get to work with all the time, and I'm just like so excited, about what I get to do every day.
Very cool. So I read on the Sakara blog actually that you meditate regularly, and I love that. I'm a huge meditator. Can you elaborate a little bit on what your personal meditation ritual is? Yeah.
So at that time, when I did the Sakara interview, I was meditating every morning. I was like getting out of bed, brushing my teeth, getting back in to sit down and meditate, and I had like a really specific practice. Now I actually find I don't meditate as often in that same way, where I'm like tuning into what is it called? Headspace? Headspace. I'm like, Headcase. Headspace.
Totally different.
I was at that time I was tuning into Headspace, and I was doing the 10 minutes a day meditation. And today I do actually more, I would call like active meditation. I arrange flowers, in my own house, and I kind of zone out while I do that. And I find that kind of like presence of mind, but like physicality of doing something that's like doesn't require focus on an intelligent level, but it's like free up my brain, and I'm like in like touching something that's like natural and nature oriented, and I'm really like, it really plays with all your senses. There's smell, there's color and sight and all these things, but also there's a touch element, and I find that concept of like making and like even beading jewelry, things like that, was always the way I like kind of zoned out.
Interesting.
Like kind of like that vibe when you're like washing a big pile of dishes. It's mindless, right? But it can be mindful, right? And I find arranging flowers to be one of those things, and also I'm exercising a lot more, and I find that that runner's high, you can get it doing a lot of different things, but I find that is where I'm my most mindful now. It doesn't mean I shouldn't be meditating properly, but I have like no judgment with myself at this point, and I'm like, when I have time to do this, I will do it. I've been converting to Judaism. My fiance's Jewish.
What were you raised?
I was raised Catholic.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, a fun fact, we wore Catholic school uniforms to public school in my family.
That's interesting.
Yeah, my dad was like, you're wearing uniforms. He was super strict. And so, it's so funny. And so, now I'm going to be Jewish. And my fiance and I and our his family, we celebrate Shabbat on Fridays, depending, it's week to week. Sometimes we do it together, sometimes we do it with friends, sometimes with family. But I find that process of like, sometimes I'm cooking. I love to cook. I'm setting the table. We do candles. There's like a part of Shabbat prayers where you light candles, and then you sort of bring the light to your eyes, and then you have some time to yourself to pray. Right. And I really love that part of my Friday night now. I'm like really find that it like really takes me out of my week.
Interesting.
I'm like, at that point, at least on Friday night, I'm done with email now. I'm like, okay, I'm done with email. I try to be at inbox 0.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, done with email. It's time to like step into like this other mode.
Right.
And I really enjoy that. And so I find that very meditative, even though it's not meditating.
Right. No, yeah, you can apply it to so many different things.
Yeah.
I think it's just like the intention and like the focus, right?
Totally.
Yeah. You also talked about how you strengthened your gut instinct, or what you call your gut instinct, with meditation a lot. And I think that that's so profound and important for people to like learn about what this practice is. Can you give some examples of how you noticed this instinct becoming stronger for you?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you first that I noticed it weakened. You know, I was like, or that I was actively ignoring it. It was not that it was weak. It was that I was like getting it and then second guessing myself, and then putting myself in too many situations where I was like allowing another group, you know, or another person or group that I thought was smart to be able to influence my decision making. And so I would second guess. And I think I've just, I started meditating to tune back into that feeling so that I would understand when it was that feeling versus just like a nervousness or something like that. Or like, you know, you always, I think especially as like a professional woman, you have this like imposter syndrome all the time. I think you probably hear about it, where you're like, you never quite think you're smart enough or good enough to be in the room that you're in. And I started mistaking my gut instinct for that. I'm like, oh, what are they, like, they're going to find out I'm not very smart or like not very good. And, you're like, wait, you have to be in your own corner. And like, you are smart and you actually are very good. And you do know this. And so I started just tuning back into that feeling and then honoring it when it came up so that I'd stop ignoring it. Because I do think if you continually ignore it, it goes away. I think you'll start to lose it. And so meditating and just focusing on that gut instinct when it does come up, I think is really important for continuing to like strengthen and develop that feeling.
Totally. Yeah. Awesome. I felt like there was another meditation thing I wanted to ask you. Oh, about the flower petals.
Oh, yeah.
So when you're doing the flowers meditation, is it like a set amount of time that you're arranging the flowers? How does that work?
No, but
exactly?
it like takes about an hour, you know, to like go to the market and pick them up and like choose all the things and then come back and like I don't usually just do one. I usually do a few. Like I'm like, I do like one for my bedside, one for our dining table, and so it does take some time. Yeah. And so I just try to, you know, spend that time focused in doing that.
And are you making a conscious effort to just, like, you're not thinking about like, oh, I have to do this later.
No,
I'm
making a conscious effort to
about the flowers and
to
how
stay
they're
quiet.
looking.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool. So I imagine that the venture capitalist world is very cutthroat. Do you apply this mindfulness approach to what you're doing at 8VC?
Yeah. You're absolutely right. It's highly competitive. It's super fast paced. And there's, you know, you are working with a lot of companies at once and you're looking at a lot of companies at once. So there's a lot of movement, a lot going on. And there's a lot of conflicting, needs. Like you're like, okay, this person needs my time here and here, like and I've got to be in San Francisco and New York on the same day, or like how am I gonna get all this done? And so I just try to like there was a point where, you know, I'd be like sitting in traffic on the way to a meeting that I was going to be like 4 minutes late to, and I'd be like freaking out. I'm like, go, you need to like make this turn, do that, blah, blah, blah. And now I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to get there. And I like can't, or I'd be at an airport. I'm constantly in the airport and it's like, oh, there's like wind in San Francisco, so we can't land on time and I'm going to miss this call by 10 minutes or like whatever. And there was all this time where I was like fighting with the flight, like I was like fighting with like the like gate attendant about when the plane was gonna leave, and I'm like, at this point I'm like, I can't change the weather, and I don't know like why I'm yelling at this person about it, and so it doesn't even make any sense, you know. And so I just like, now I'm just like, you know what, if the weather is the weather, I'm like, we just roll with the punches now, you know. And we're just like, okay. I'm like, wind, you know, is happening and Mother Nature is dealing with it, and she's got other plans for me right now, so I'm just going to chill here and read this book, or like I'll take it as a call, or I'll take the call as soon as I land, or when I get there, I get there. So I'm much more relaxed about it now. I'm not like, oh my God, I'm going to, you know, I'm like not sprinting through the street anymore. I'm in my heels, I'm like zipping around. And so at this point I'm just like, okay, like shit happens. Sorry. I'm like, my life's running.
Yeah, you're
like
all good.
Shit happens, and we're just going to deal with it as it comes. And like at some point I had this feeling like we're just gonna, like, everything's gonna go like, we're gonna plan so well and everything's gonna go like this, and because we like work hard on it, it's gonna happen like this. And at this point in my career, I've learned that like shit just happens, and all the worst things that you think will happen will. It's not like you're like, oh, this is the worst case scenario, and I'm like, no, this is the scenario. Like, it's not the worst case scenario anymore.
Right.
Just accept it as the base, like the base case. This is what's going to happen. Worst stuff you can't imagine will also happen, and you're just going to have to be flexible and able to deal with that all the time. And I actually find physical strength helps you do that. You're kind of like, okay, you're just like dealing with it as it comes. Staying and being really healthy helps you do that, but also having been a founder, having empathy for your founders, so that they are comfortable calling you at 3 a.m. when everything's gone wrong and shit really hits the fan, and when their not worst case scenario, but actual scenario comes up. And I think that I try to apply that mindfulness and empathy to my investing. And I do think that's unique, in a lot of ways. And I hope that it proves out to be the right strategy and like a good investing strategy. But, I'm still young in my investing career, and fingers crossed.
I think it will, because you've got the right intentions.
I hope so.
I don't see why not.
Yeah, I hope so.
On that vein, though, do you think that there's ever a time where a mindfulness approach is like a detriment in what you do? Being compassionate or,
yeah,
empathetic,
for sure.
things like that?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You can be like super self-aware and really unaware of what another player, you can't ever really know what somebody else is like planning or thinking or doing. And, sometimes people's intentions aren't good. And you don't quite realize that, because you're trying to be, so good that you like hope for the best in others. And so I'm a super optimist. I'm very trusting, and I think I've learned a lot in my career that you can't always have your guard completely down, because you will take a hit. And so I do think that there's times that it has not played out the way you hope it would, it being a good and optimistic person. But I think that for the amount of times that it's gone wrong, it's gone so right so much of the time, and you can't do something that's not like you. Right. Every time I've tried to be like that kind of like that, I've tried to like go into a mode that was like more forceful in a way that was like unnatural to me, or less honest. It's always not gone well, and so that's. I just try to be. You have to be yourself in your career as well, and so I just try to make that happen. And it's sometimes something goes wrong, and people don't behave the way you hope they will. Or the way you trust that they will, or they say they might, and you just have to deal with that as it comes too. But I just try not to let it get me down, and try to like stay really positive and focus on all the times it did go right.
Great. That's probably also where training your gut instinct to be stronger comes in too. So you know where to trust and where not to. Yeah,
you do begin to understand like, oh, that your gut really does like flare up. When you're feeling somebody's intentions aren't totally good. And you're like, oh, this is not, your body's trained for that. It's like an animal instinct to understand intention actually, and you have to really focus on it and like hone it to know when it's, when what you think is butterflies isn't. You're like, oh my God, I love this and this is great. And then you're like, wait, no, it's not. Like, it's like run, fight or flight. And you're like, oh, I love this. So funny.
That's so fascinating. I love it. So 2 last questions for you that I always like to ask people. One, where do you see the world? Where do you see the world in 5 years from now? And how do you see yourself and your business contributing to it?
Yeah. Better and improved in so many ways, I would say, is where I see the world. I think that we are really on the cusp of a lot of really exciting change in healthcare. What we are always asking ourselves in venture capital is like, what's possible today that wasn't impossible 5 years ago, and to try to imagine what that is 5 years from now. We're changing. Like, science is developing at like such an incredible clip at this point, and dropping the costs of care and in such an interesting way that we've never seen this level of innovation before.
Right.
And so I do think that I think we'll look back in 5 years and a lot of things will be unrecognizable. The way we do them today will really be changed. I was just at the Museum of Natural History and like seeing even like the development of like the last 100 years. There was an amazing thing in the planetarium there, an amazing film with Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he was talking about like a telescope that we were like using before, and then we had such like an improved version of that.
What was your free on?
Hi. Who are you?
Sam.
Oh, hi. I'm Kimmy. We're just in the middle of an interview.
No worries.
Sorry, we're
do you
like-
wait downstairs? Because I spoke to the person handling the elevators. I'm supposed to be meeting with Sarah.
Okay, great.
Do you want me to wait downstairs?
If you
Whatever
if
you'd
you
like.
can
whatever's-
just sit quietly.
It'll be like 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah,
We're done.
perfect. I think you guys, you're just like a little early, I think, right?
2:45.
Oh, is it? Oh, is it? I'm like,
Oh, wow.
I'm like, we've been doing this a long time. Perfect, thank you. Sorry, so I was just, you want me to start over so you can cut that whole question out?
No, let's pick it up from where were you? Do you remember where you just stopped?
I think I was just saying. Oh, okay. So I was in the Met last week, and I was watching this film by Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he was talking about the development of basically a telescope that allowed us to see the universe in a new way, and the size and scale of it, and basically what we thought it was like 100 years ago, and what we know it to be today, or what we think it is today, because with improved technology we'll be able to even see further. I think is like a good analogy for how technology is developing in general. And so, I think we'll look back and our whole universe will be bigger and unrecognizable to, our telescope in 5 years.
Awesome. I love the way that you think. That's really cool. And lastly, what's a valuable piece of advice you'd like to give to other entrepreneurs who are creating businesses with conscious intentions?
Such a good question. I think my advice would be to listen to your gut, and also listen to the data. So as you're building your business and you start to get information back from customers and the market, really hear it. I think a lot of people, they have a vision and then they're really myopic about that vision, and they're like hell bent on it going one way. It's not going to go the way you think it's going to go.
Right.
So you need to really listen to information as it comes in, and it doesn't mean take everybody's idea and like apply it, but be honest with yourself in the way you're hearing and reading information about your business to decide whether or not you're on the right path or you need to adjust it slightly.
Right.
And so I think listen to your gut, but also listen to the information that you're getting.
Yeah.
Because that's the benefit of putting your idea out into the world, is it becomes changed because other people influence it, and you learn new things from other people. And so you have to really, you really have to be in tune to do that, and not like, well, this is the way that I want to do it, and it's going to look specifically like this, because you'll never create anything huge if that's the way you're thinking about it.
Great advice. I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
This was so great, and thank you for having me over. This was awesome.
Please. Yeah.
Pearls of wisdom. Thank you.